Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of From Dusk Till Dawn, as well as the latest episode of Aftermath. Starting off with From Dusk Till Dawn, so basically, big premise of the episode is trying to stop Amaru from completing her ritual. Like I kind of theorized it last episode, I was like, oh, Freddy's just kind of like, faking it, like this is all a plan to get closer to Amaru, kind of get closer to his family. What actually surprised me is it's not, which I was partly right. Yes, Freddy was faking it, but it was actually part of Seth's plan too, and it's just like, wow, that was pretty impressive. Still joining up with Carlos. I still can't believe he's back. I just really was not expecting Wilmer Valderrama to kind of pop up. Like I said, he's doing NCIS, but like at the same time, it's like, bro, I think I brought it up last time, but it's like, production schedule. So, it could easily happen. It depends on when when the shows are done, when they're filming, when they need him to show up and stuff like that. When NCIS, the whole thing. So it's just really cool seeing them kind of come together. Very action-packed episode. First going up against like those kind of gunslingers of Albans. Sadly, they wiped almost everyone out. I really like you had that one dude kind of going up the stairs. He kind of jumps. He's waiting by the window, and this Alban shoots him through the wall, and he ends up falling back, and he turns into dust midair. I was like, that's pretty impressive. But I mean, it don't even just stop there. Probably like the coolest freaking moment in the episode is when Seth is going up against the last one. He picks up that gun belt and the last Subaltern like ends up shooting it out of his hand, and he jumps up in the air, has a gun like pulled down so that a bullet can fall into the chamber. A few miss, and then one of them slips, and I'm like, dude! And then he turns around mid-air, headshots him before he's ground. I'm like, dude, that was just sick! They knew exactly what they were doing. I was like, that is like the coolest freaking thing. That looked like something straight out of like an action movie. That was so freaking good! I live for like stuff like that. Those are my favorite type of things. It's like, dude! I think that is probably hands down like the coolest action scene. Like this show has some pretty awesome action scenes, but I think that's hands down probably like the best one. That was super cool. And then you had Seth going up against Braza, because I love the entire episode. You have like Richie and him kind of listing off different movies. It's like, oh yeah, we're kind of going like this movie, and then like Seth had to be like, literally everyone died in that movie. Then they name another movie, and Richie's like, well, only so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so died. And just Steph was kind of like, okay. And then Steph later on was like, okay, we're kind of like Sundance. And he's like, but they both died in it. He's like, no, they didn't. It was a freeze frame. They live forever, type of thing. So it's like, I'm always skeptical about, freeze frame moments at the end of movies. It's kind of like, you never know what literally happened after the next frame. It's like, because I'm not familiar with the movie they're talking about, so it might be like they're in the middle of a shootout and then it goes into freeze frame or something, but things against Braza went a lot better than I thought they were going to. I'm surprised he died this episode. I really am. I was kind of expecting, I was literally thinking, in the back of my mind, it's like, oh, he's going to take this moment to kind of screw over Amaru. It was just in the back of my mind, I was like, he's waiting for an opportunity, but they ended up kind of going at each other, ended up using that dynamite, which that whole thing was pretty tight. Like, basically, they get ammunition, they get bombs, as well as bullets dipped in, Culebra venom, because apparently the prison had been like milking them for venom the entire time. Blew it up, and you have Braza still standing after the first explosion, which to me, my brain instantly went to kind of Gus from Gustavo from Breaking Bad, when after the spoiler alert, when the hospital room explodes and he comes out like half his face is blown off and he's fixing his tie and then he drops dead. It was kind of similar to that. You have Braza like blown up pieces off his leg, his arm, his like left arm is completely gone, his chest is gone, and apparently he ended up finding out the person he ended up possessing was actually a priest, and he was talking all this stuff about like, oh, next body I'm going to get is yours. Initially I was thinking get Freddy's body, because Freddy is immune to Culebra venom and stuff like that, which that hasn't come up like at all. Like, did that come up last season? I know it definitely came up the first season. I can't remember that's ever come up again. That was kind of like a one-off thing where it's like he got bitten and it was just kind of left at it. He never brought that up again. I'd completely forgotten about that until he brought it. I was like, oh yeah, he totally is, isn't he? But, and it's just Braza's still there. He's like, oh, you're running away? And Seth's like, no. And then Braza looks beside him and sees the truck that Freddy brought. It's like, I was wondering how that was going to play out, because I figured there was something up there. I figured it was a person or something, because it's like, but you see, because that Jaguar Warrior is about to pull it up, but then Brazos Khan telling him to come on, and he just lets it go. So I was like, okay, so that's going to be something, and it turns out to be something when he Seth ends up shooting it, and then Brazos' literal last word is fuck. So that's kind of interesting. You gotta give it up to Seth. He took down basically a sun god, probably the toughest one of the Zabalbans around. And Seth took him down by himself. A human at that too, not even a culebra, a human took down a top-notch Zabalban. So that's pretty cool. Also, you had Richie going up against that Jaguar Warrior, which I really like. The fact is, the only thing I really liked about Richie's outfit is just that mask. I just thought that mask was sick. I probably, out of anyone, I like Santanico's outfit the best, just because it just looked like old school. I think that was kind of the vibe they were going for this episode, kind of a little bit of that Western vibe, especially because you had those Zabalban gunslingers and stuff like that. It just kind of high noon type of duel type of thing. That's what the kind of feel you were getting for, because it looked like one of those movies you see in an old cowboy movie. So that was pretty cool. I just keep saying that just because it was just overall an awesome episode with a lot of stuff. Okay, because I was kind of expecting that fight with Richie to kind of go a little bit differently. I mean, Richie handcuffed him to the truck and everything. I was like, okay, he's like, oh, you ready to go for a ride? I was like, oh, that's going to suck. You're going to drag him, aren't you? But he tries to crank up the car. It's like, nope, the sword is stuck in the engine. And it's like, well, shit. And so he's stuck out there, so he can't be a part of this. But, still, like I said, Seth kicked some ass. Sadly, he was the last one. And sadly, all the other dudes that were there with him died. Because actually, some of the prison dudes, especially the head honcho prison dude, actually helped him out. Because it's oh, let's get Vengaza. So, and he had that whole situation with Bert. I think Bert was kind of in his own shape and form, kind of going through PTSD. Because he was having all this, you hear it in his head. He's remembering what went down in the war. And basically, before they left, Seth was told him and Titanico, is if you get to, if the time is right and you need to stop her, go ahead and kill Kate. They want to say Kate, but if it's not an option, just go ahead and kill her. And he kind of left it up to them because he felt like they were the moral responsible. They were the ones he can count on. They wouldn't get emotional because Titanico has no emotional connection to her, just like Bert doesn't. I mean, he's more likely to do it anybody because it's hey, it's his duty to kind of stop Amaru from rising and whatnot. But he ended up kind of snapping and being this is all about saving millions of lives. It's more important than saving one girl's life. So Scott and Tanner kind of got left behind in a way. And bringing up Tanner, I like the fact I'm bringing it up again because I never bothered looking it up, but I'm pretty sure it is. The same actor who plays Bert is the same guy that plays Sex Machine in the original movie. And he basically, Tanner's go-to little gun, surprise that he had back in season 1, that basically he got one for Bert too, and is oh, you can use this, and Bert was just that's fucking stupid. So it's just you and your damn little I guess you could say homage / cameo, I guess, however you want to look at it. But yeah, you also found out some interesting stuff about Vengaza and Amaru. Apparently, there was some history there. I was like, oh, wait, what? It's yeah, she's yeah, I loved you, but you used me, you manipulated me. She kind of used her position as her feeling. That's how she got Amaru to come here, where all the lords ended up feasting upon her. It was because of Vengaza. And it's I guess there's a reason why she was last. I'm sure she always wanted her dead, sure, but it's it's kind of, I guess it's poetic that she ends up being the last one. And she says, tell me, before you die, I want you to tell me that you actually loved me. And because basically the thing also was there was nothing between us. A slave can never love their master. And then she was I never loved you. I only did what I needed to set my people free. And it's just ooh. And then she's about to say, I'm going to kill you. And then Vengaza kills herself because she's I won't give you the satisfaction, and kills herself. But you actually see it on Amaru's face. It broke her heart because you see her kind of a little sad. It's wow, you actually did have feelings for her. I mean, granted, you did follow her willingly to kind of end up, leading to your death. And she actually kind of brought up something in a very interesting perspective. That was thousands of years ago, the whole thing with Amaru. It's the fact that she's oh, there was a point. Because it kind of started off with oh yeah, there was it was for you, it felt 1,000 years ago when you because you used to wash me. I was wait, is that? I was no, because, that kind of happens, master and slave relationship. And then it's and then brought it, I was oh, it was like that. That's interesting. But the fact is that it's just For her, the collaborators had always been basically the Zabalban, basically bitches, like kind of like the bottom tier. So it's just like that she was just trying to do whatever it takes to get her people free. So that kind of coincides with what Carlos is trying to doing, because he's saying like he doesn't want Amaru on the throne, he wants Santanico. He always has. So I don't know. Carlos seems like maybe he's trustworthy. I don't know, because with the situation, it's just like with the whole Wilmer Valderrama thing. It's like, will he be popping up in future seasons or not? Will he have the chance to? I don't know. I'm so curious about that. But because the others about Zabalban's dying and stuff like that, she really didn't care about it. But it's like, oh, seeing Vengaza kill herself, it actually broke her heart. It's like, oh, you actually did care about somebody at some point. She might have been a slave, but you still actually legitimately loved her. That's weird. But then Bert shows up, starts whooping ass, freaking whipping sword combo, and then at one point gets three people in a row against the wall, stabbing them. I'm like, damn, Bert. Then it gets to Kate, but then like Scott shows up, but kind of threatens Scott and be like, oh, Kate comes to the surface. Kate does, but it's already too late, and Bert ends up dying in the process, which his final words are, fuck. And now we see that Amaru is back. So it's going to be crazy to see what happens next episode. Because next episode, because I had to look it up to make sure, is episode 10. So it is the season finale. And I'm just so curious to see where everything goes down, because they have to stop her before she gets to the gateway to hell. Because if she does, the moment she gets there, now that she's in her original form, she'll be able to open it, and it'll be like, oh, all hell will break loose on Earth. So it's just going, hopefully Richie can get there back in time. I feel like he's going to be the key to this. That whole eyeball thing. I have no idea how this is going to all end. Positive, in a more positive, like, it's like, oh, things are going to end in a good way, but it's like, hey, you never know. The show could easily make a twist and be like, yep, one of the Gecko brothers dies. I mean, they're kind of destined to kind of like, it's supposed to be the two brothers, so it's like as far as destiny and stuff like that. So maybe them together can stop her. It's just, I feel like they're setting Seth up for something special, because it's like, even though he's still like the only human, quote unquote, of the group. I mean, technically Kate's possibly still alive. I mean, she ended up having to slit her own wrist because of Amaru to kind of feed blood to, so I mean, she seems like she might be alive. It's just, she probably just like used up all her blood. So there's still Kate in that regard. So I'm also curious about that regards. Like, if Kate's still alive, like, where is everyone going to stand on that? And what's going to happen with Santanica? What's going to happen with Carlos? Just where is everything going to go? Because there's no more 9 lords. There's no one there to lead. So I'm guessing Santanica will have to kind of come back and lead for her people. And, will she have the Geckos at her side? Will she have Carlos at her side? Will they kind of like represent a new council? What happens with Freddie and his wife and his child? It's just so many questions that we just have to wait till next week to get some answers. Super, super excited to see how this all plays out. I'm already going to say it. I hope it's coming back for a 4th season. I brought this up before when I did like a nerd mode on it. Literally, whether the show comes back or not kind of comes down to Robert Rodriguez. He's going to do the show for as long. I'm sure a lot of other things would be like, well, if the ratings are down, he's going to be like, well, you know what? We're going to give the show a proper ending, so this will be the last season. So, I mean, but really, ultimately, it is his decision. I mean, he kind of runs the network. But at this point, who knows? Maybe he actually sold the network, and so he doesn't really have creative control. He doesn't... I feel like he probably still has word to say. It's like, well, guys, I sat down, talked to myself and everything, so I've decided we're going back for one more season. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe next season might be the last season. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe they'll have a little thing at the end of the season finale, be like, hey, we're coming back for the final season or something like that. I hope not, because they've just like really stepped up their game this season, in my opinion. It's just like, because it's always been Culebra centered, and now it's just kind of like, like, we got other monsters and everything. This season is just like, I mean, the thing is, how would they top this season, in my opinion? Because this season's been really good just with all the stuff that's going on. Season 1 was a lot of setup. Season 2 is just kind of like, hey, the aftermath of that setup. And season 3 is just kind of like, hey, this story of just craziness that's happening. So it's like, how will they top this? That's kind of where I'm at on that. So. And now moving on to Aftermath, a crazy ass episode. I keep saying it literally every time. The show gets weirder and weirder, and it's got freaking Wayne Brady. The moment the dude took off the mask, I was like, Wayne motherfucking Brady? I was like, shut your fucking mouth. No way. I'm sorry, I've got a filthy mouth, but verbatim, that is what I said. I was like, no freaking way. I was like, that's so weird, and yet so awesome at the same time. And also explaining why she's like calling Karen Booty, because apparently her code name was Beauty, but it was also because like he called her Booty because of just her body and everything. And it's just like, oh my god, and he's like straight up hitting on Karen, like right there in front of Josh. I feel so bad for him. He even says that thing later on that I loved. I had to take note of it. Was like when she's like threatening that guy, hey, you try, like, I will shoot you dead if you keep pointing that gun at my sister. It's like she's telling Lamar, he's like, I will shoot him and I will kill him, and you know I will. He's like, yes, I do, and that is hot. And he's just like, the way he's talking about her, like how he knows her so well and everything. It's just kind of, her husband is literally right there. And also calling her Booty in front of her children. That's just something, that's got to be a little scarring. But in this episode, we also had Jeff kind of coming down. Well, he's already been infected with the fever as a feverhead. But the thing is that he had been taking the medicine to kind of like keep it at bay, but he was running low. And basically the Feverhead situation, it seemed like it might be under control last episode. It's like, nope, completely falling apart. Apparently he's probably the only one left. And so he's with Sally, and it's just kind of like, I bet you Sally didn't go with him now. Especially because at the end of the episode where we'll skip right to it, just she died. That fucking sucked. I would have loved it if someone was able to save her, but it's like, nope. Just snapped her neck. It's like, well, shit. Because it's like, literally, it's like, okay, you make her leave with Jeff, and it's like, okay, so I guess she's going to be there with him for the rest of the series, whatever. And it's like, really, right? And then it's like, oh yeah, now it's the next episode. She's coming back to the family, and it's like, okay, she's going to be sticking with, and she's dead. Okay, well, that fucking sucks. Once again, I apologize for my filthy mouth. I don't know. I feel like I cut loose a little bit. Like it's just like whatever comes in my mouth comes in my mouth. Some stuff I try to keep it a little more, I guess, PG, but other times I'm just like, screw it. Nevertheless, we also got introduced to I forgot what Josh called him, but it's basically a Japanese plant that basically eats you. And just Dana's always like, oh, that thing that got me wasn't a myth, Dad. It's like, well, you don't have to worry about things being a myth, because it's just like this show is kicking up like that stuff. I was so sure. I was like, it seemed like, everything I was reading, it's like, oh, it's a science fictional show. I was like, this is just a straight out supernatural show, because it's like there's monsters everywhere. It's like every freaking time you turn around, there's a new monster. It's like those water goblins or whatever it was that Matt met, plus the this plant. The thing that Brianna saw like twice, that thing flying in the air, plus all this, the skinwalkers and everything. It's just like, it's so much. It's like, what the hell is going on? I mean, it is legitimate just saying like, yeah, it's the end of the world. Oh, you thought just some meteors and stuff like that. It's like, no, we got monsters running the earth. That's part of the apocalypse. That's just crazy to me. And something I didn't bring up, something I was about to say something, but screw that. Something interesting that Brianna kind of brings up in this episode, because we end up finding out apparently skinwalkers can possess feverheads too, which is something you wouldn't actually think about that. It's just kind of like you would thought those are two separate problems, but apparently they can become one problem. I mean, because even Josh was like, well, I mean, there wouldn't be any particular reason why they wouldn't, but it seemed like, why would you? I mean, it just seemed like normal people was the best case. But Brianna brings up something pretty interesting, like I hadn't thought about, because I was a complete idiot. Is the fact of the matter is skinwalkers are actually pretty smart, because the Reverend stayed hidden the entire time. No one knew he was a monster. He was just playing the role so well. And it's like, if he could do that for so long, pretending to be human, as a regular person, it's like, that shows you just how smart they are. And you put that inside of feverheads who are just hell-bent on ripping your face off. It's like, that's a deadly combination. They could pretend, the skinwalker inside of them can pretend like they're okay, possibly. I mean, it seemed like when you kind of get first introduced to it, it seems like the skinwalkers haven't really kind of grasped it 100%. That's why at certain points in the episode, just the way he was acting, I was like, is Wayne Brady's character possessed or not? And the fact of the matter is he's not dead at the end of the episode. I was like, yay! So that must mean we're going to be seeing him for a little while throughout the season. So that's pretty awesome. Obviously, just because of the whole situation between him and Kate. Karen. I hope I haven't been calling her Kate before. I know I've mentioned her as Karen before. I hope I'm not calling her Kate, because the whole From Dusk Till Dawn thing is kind of like, I had to literally think about that when I was writing notes. I was like, Kate, that's not right. It's like, oh, her name's Karen. I completely got that wrong, but at the same time, this whole episode also dealt with romance too. Devin and Brianna, because Brianna's like, literally Devin gave up everything, his entire world for me, and he would die for me, and he loves me, and I think I'm in love with him. She kind of even brings it up to Josh, being like, I think Devin is in love with me, and it's like, that things. She's making it seem like, oh, things might go a certain way. I'm like, are you trying to tell your dad that you might eventually kind of end up having sex with him or something? I'm just saying that's what it seemed like she was trying to say to him, and Josh was just going, okay, I don't know where this conversation. Sure. And also Dana hooking up with that other guy, which I love Matt being like, he's kind of stepping up, being big bro, and like, no, don't do anything. You just sit here. You don't talk to him. Like, he's way older than you. And Brianna's almost like, like, Matt, shut up. Dana, go over there, like, talk to him, say thank you for the dessert, and just let him show you around the base and everything, and that they kissed and everything. And she's like, wait. Before we keep going, like, you're not like a monster or something that's going to rip my face off or something. He's like, no. And he's like, but I do have to sentry duty in like 10 minutes. She's like, it's okay. I can make out for 10 minutes. I'm like, wow. They're really pushing out that romance angle. Like I said, I feel weird like Josh is kind of getting shafted just because of that whole like Karen and Wayne Brady situation. I get it. It's Wayne Brady. He's so smooth. And literally in the back of my mind, anytime I think of Wayne Brady, I can't help but think of that Chappelle Show sketch. He's forever ruined in my mind because of that. Because that was like my first real experience with Wayne Brady, that sketch. So I don't really know him like it for anything else other than that. Obviously, you see him in stuff here and there. Like, I also know him as Barney's brother on How I Met Your Mother. Kind of his like his wingman is like Barney helps him help Wayne Brady's character, his brother, pick up men, and then Wayne Brady's character would help Barney pick up women. So just kind of like they were each other's wingmen. But nevertheless, I'm going completely off the mark here. But it was pretty impressive when it's like we're drawing them in. I'm like, are you crazy? Why are you going to draw them in? It's like, is no one else going to call him out on this? He's saying like he wants all his people to kind of box them in and kind of draw all those Feverheads / possessed people this way, and it's like no one else is like flipping out about that. I even know the point is no one has showed up yet, and Dana just kind of panicking, just started firing off it like in the distance. It's like Matt had to come over there and tell her to calm the hell down, and then it's like, oh, she's got potential, and then Karen's just like, shut up, and then he explodes all these mines he has in the ground, and then all those like skinwalkers kind of float off in the air, and I was like, isn't that a bad thing? Doesn't that just mean that they can basically go off and possess other people? Because that doesn't stop them, that doesn't kill them, it just kills the host they're in, so they have to move on to another body. So I was so damn sure that they're just going to possess people there. I also thought with Wayne Brady on up high, kind of like congratulating himself, like, oh, we did it and everything, I was like, dude, one of us is going to come over there and possess you, especially because you're shooting shots into the air. I'm like, okay, they're going to notice you now and come out. It's like, oh, no, never mind. They just completely fucked off and left you alone. So I'm just telling you, man, this show gets weirder and weirder. It's like I don't know where it's going to go next. It's just, I'm curious to know where everything will go, how it will end. It's like, it doesn't seem like because it's like, oh, we'll kind of stay here until the situation is fixed. It's like, how do you fix the end of the world? You can't. I guess you're kind of just stuck with it, I guess. I don't see any way of actually repairing that, just kind of leaving it as it is. So I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see where what direction the series takes in the future and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm very curious to see what other kind of things we come across in the show, like, things from the Bible, things from mythology, just what else is waiting for. Because I feel like that whole situation with Matt, that lady, I feel like that's going to come back because it seems so important, because it's like, oh yeah, your grandfather takes whatever he wants, and it's like we still haven't found like Josh's dad, so it's like that seemed like a major story element there in itself. But I don't know. This show just goes from like one crazy thing into another one, and it's just mind blowing. But I will say that I am kind of shocked that Jeff ended up dying. I mean, I was kind of hoping it's like, oh, they bring him in and everything. It's just like, okay, Sally's like, oh, bring him in, make sure he's okay. I'll take care of him and everything. And it's like, I was like, okay, maybe he's okay. And then you see that he got possessed. I was like, well, that fucking sucks. And, he sadly ended up killing Sally. He kept telling Sally over and over throughout the episode to kill him. And it's like, she might have been better off if she had. I mean, would she even been able to make it there? I don't know. It just sucks all around. And having to deal with that is just like the only family that we know of that Karen has left. I mean, obviously her family here, but just outside of her immediate family. Like, I mean, she does, out of like the kids and her husband, you know, she lost her sis, just sucks. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about in this episode. But till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.